Indie developers are often told to keep game design documents simple or to skip them entirely. But I decided to do the opposite. I wrote 10 game development documents for a small game. Why? To figure out exactly how much documentation is too much and what's truly essential for future projects. It might sound excessive, but this is all part of my philosophy. Do the maximum now so I can trim it down to just the essentials next time. Think of it like shaping a bonsai tree. You let it grow wild before carefully pruning it into something refined. By the end of this journey, I'll know exactly which documents were worth the effort and which ones I can leave behind for my next game. So let me show you what this process looks like. The game I'm working on is intentionally very small in scope. A 2D top-down shooter with wizards and monsters and spells. It's designed to be simple, something any decent indie developer could finish in a game jam. But here's the catch. I'm giving myself an entire year to make it. Why? Because this isn't just about making a game. It's about learning the entire process of game development. There's so much more to creating a game than just coding and drawing pixel art. From planning and pre-production to marketing and releasing the game, there are countless moving parts that most first-time developers overlook. I want to explore every aspect of this process so I know what works, what doesn't, and what I should focus on in the future. To stay on track, I've created a roadmap. Each month is dedicated to a specific part of development that I want to learn. Some tasks will take less time than others, I expect. But that's the whole point of this project, to figure out where my time goes and what's realistic. After the end of each month, I'll share everything I've learned in a devlog right here on this channel. So if you're curious about the process, subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss it. So, why did I write 10 documents? Well, the idea came to me from a book called Game Design Fundamentals by Ernest Adams. In this book, Adams suggests breaking down your documentation into multiple focus documents, each tailored to a specific team in a game studio. For example, the marketing team doesn't need the same details as the programmers or the artists, and vice versa. Of course, I'm just one person. I don't have a team of developers to share these documents with. But the concept intrigued me. I wanted to see if writing all these documents would still be useful for a solo developer like me, or if I'd end up wasting my time. If nothing else, I'll have learned something. So here's a breakdown of the documents I wrote and why they're useful. So, for marketing, we have the high concept document. This is the elevator pitch for your game. It's short, snappy, and designed to grab attention. Think of it as a trailer for your game in a text form. It's the kind of document you'd show to potential players or investors to get them interested immediately. The second is the game treatment document. This takes the concept a step further. It's a more detailed pitch that dives into the game's mechanics, story, and overall vision. It still focuses on selling the idea, but with enough detail to convince someone that the game is worth supporting. And for production, we have the game design document. This is the game design document. This is the central blueprint. This is where I lay out everything about how the game works, its mechanics, systems, rules, and core gameplay loop. If the game were a machine, this document would be the instruction manual. Next is the character design document. This focuses entirely on the main character, their abilities, their personalities, and how they fit into the story. For this game, I'm using this document to make sure the protagonist feels well developed and consistent across all aspects of gameplay and narrative. Next is the world design document. This is to document the feel, style, and the tone of the game. I specify the biome where it takes place, the color scheme of the level, and what kind of ambient audio I need, and what boss the player might encounter in this level. After that is the user interface design document. This document focuses on menus, HUD elements, and any on-screen components that the player interacts with. It's essentially a guide to how the game communicates information visually. Next is Flowboard, a visual map of the player's journey through the game. This document helps me understand how the game's levels, mechanics, and stories all connect. It's also useful for spotting potential pacing issues before production starts. Then we have the story and level progression document. This ties the narrative to gameplay progression. It details how the story unfolds as the player moves through each level, making sure there's a logical flow between the gameplay and the narrative. Then we have the on-screen text and audio document. This is where I keep track of all the dialogue, subtitles, and sound effects in the game. It's a master list for anything the player will read or hear. This can be quite useful during localization, for example. And finally, we have the game script, a fully written script for dialogue, events, and cutscenes. If the previous documents track what happens, this one focuses on how it happens. Each of these documents serve a specific purpose, and together they create a cohesive plan for the entire game. Why go to this level of detail for such a small project? For me, it's all about preparation. Pre-production is the foundation of a successful game, and these documents help me think critically about every aspect of development before I even open the game engine. Writing these documents also helps me stay organized. When I eventually start production, I'll always know what to work on next, and I'll have a clear reference for how everything fits together. Once this project is finished, I'll be able to look back and figure out which documents were truly useful and which ones I could skip in the future. Finally, I also want to talk about which tools I'm using. To organize all of my documentation, I'm using Obsidian. It's a great tool for writing and linking documents, and the ability to cross-reference ideas makes it easy to connect everything. For example, I can link a boss to its level in the world design document. For the game itself, I'll be using Godot as my primary engine. It's open source, lightweight, and perfect for 2D games like this. I'm also using Sprite for pixel art. Godot's ecosystem makes integrating assets relatively painless, and Sprite is the king of pixel art tools. So those are the primary tools that I'll be using. Wrapping up, why write 10 design documents for a small indie game? To learn, of course. By doing the maximum now, I'll know exactly what's worth keeping for future projects and what I can cut. This project isn't just about finishing a game, it's about understanding the entire process. And once I've figured out which documents are genuinely useful, I'd share my findings with you in a future video. If that sounds interesting, stick around. I'll post monthly devlogs documenting what I've learned, what worked, and what didn't. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.